So what's up people and welcome to another Battle Angel Alita GUNNM manga video. Well, not really. Yeah, okay, so this is already confusing as it is. But this is a manga introduction to other mangas based upon your preference to Battle Angel Alita. The reason I'm making this video is because of the fact that many of the people I've encountered who like the GUNNM manga series are not really manga fans. They started reading Battle Angel Alita not because it's a manga, but because of their experience with the movie. They liked the movie so much that they thought, maybe I should read the manga and learn more about the lore. And by reading the manga, they enjoyed it very much. But because this is the very first manga series that they've read, even if you wanted to go into the other mangas to see if there are others that may be interesting, the question that comes up is, which one do you choose? Because there's just so many manga out there to choose from. And if you accidentally choose the wrong manga, like something like Bobo 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 Bobo, then you might look at it and go, what the heck is this? You know, of course, if you did choose Bobo 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 as a title, as your first choice after Battle Angel Alita, then maybe, yeah, you deserved what you get. But in any case, what I wanted to do is talk about a few manga that might be interesting to people who enjoy the GUNNM manga series. These are not always similar in terms of plot, although a few are. But I just wanted to bring things out that have similar qualities of the manga that is very similar to the things that you may like about Battle Angel Alita. If you like certain aspects of that comic, you may like these other comics as well. So I'm going to keep them to comics that are very similar in story. Some of them are well known and very popular, some of them are not. Some of them are very recent and some of them are quite old. And in the past, I have talked about a few of these manga sporadically in different videos. But what I thought I would do in this video is just bring them all together, consolidate them, and give you at least a few manga that you may want to try out to see if you find these to be of interest. And I'll give a little bit of a synopsis to each one of these so that you get some idea of which ones you may like. Okay, so the first two are obvious similar mangas. One is Akira and the other is Ghost in the Shell. Now, of course, Ghost in the Shell is the most compared manga to GUNNM, at least in the Western world. But I wanted to start out with Akira because as far as comics go, I feel Akira is as close to Battle Angel Alita as you can get in terms of look and feel. It's very cyberpunk, it's extremely violent, and it has that, society versus humanity sort of feel to it. And it talks about how society has brought in, technologies that are questionable, which eventually results in the entire plot line and the entire difficulties that are shown in Akira. It's not really directly similar in plot in that it's, something like Ghost in the Shell may be closer in that the main character isn't particularly, for example, military personnel or even a cyborg. But the whole world, the way the world is built, is very similar. There is some government conspiracies and the people, the average citizen are not aware of it, and the government don't particularly care about the average citizen. And the conspiracies continue to go on to see if they can extend the capabilities of society, but it all goes crazy. And a few people, including the protagonist, or a group of protagonists, I should say, get caught up in that. It's not particularly a romantic story similar to Battle Angel Alita, there isn't as much of the soft feeling that you get. It's a very hardcore story, but unlike the romantic feeling that you will get in Battle Angel Alita about the soft, warm side of a young girl, that you see with Alita, here, if there is any romantic feeling, it comes through the brotherhood of the characters that are portrayed in the comic, the main characters, I should say. It's basically a story about a biker gang and how they get caught up in this government conspiracy that includes extremely, very strange technology. It could go from telekinesis all the way to cybernetics. And these biker gangs, who are typically just, let's hang out, drink beer, and beat each other up, get completely caught up in it. And the one area that I do find depth in the character is, once again, the brotherhood between the people within the group, especially the person I would say who is the protagonist and the other person who I would say is the protagonist slash antagonist. These are the two main characters that come out in the story, and it is really the clash between these two that is the main part of the story. And so if you like that part about Alita, the humanity against the society and how it can affect your persona, basically, this might be very good. It's a lot less colorful, and I would say. You don't get the cute moments, you don't get the soft moments, but you do get everything else. You get the visceral violence, you get a lot of the politics, and you get a very dark story. So if you like that about Battle Angel Alita and wanted to see another conspiracy sort of story, then Akira would be a very good choice. Now, on the other hand, Ghost in the Shell, or Kokaku Kidotai Ghost in the Shell, as the Japanese would say it, is a story that, from a plot-wise, is very similar to Battle Angel Alita. It's about not a cyborg, but an android, fully synthetic lady. You could think of her as a female version of Data, and it goes into her story and her team's story about their fight against cyber criminals in the world. The main character, Major Makoto Kusanagi, or Kusanagi Matoko Kusanagi, is a detective of a very elite special force in the police department called Section 9. And they are a group of officers that are specifically there to go after cyber criminals. Something like Destinova, for example, or Jean Varese in Last Order. And so this is a very similar story in terms of plot, although there is not as much of this overlord major government conspiracy that you see in something like Battle Angel Alita or Akira. But there is a lot of politics. There's far more politics in Ghost in the Shell than there is in either Akira or Battle Angel Alita. And it goes through that almost a mystery that you have to go through, that the detectives have to solve for each one of the cases, and the politics that they have to endure to go through that. This one doesn't have as much of the heart. This is very much a mystery, very political story. So if you like, for example, detective novels, Western detective novels, that go into the lot of the politics and the lot of the, Tom Clancy sort of thing, Ghost in the Shell is perfect because of the fact that you get the Battle Angel Alita side and you get the Tom Clancy side coming together. It's not as violent, or visceral, I should say. It is definitely violent since they are going after criminals, but you don't get the tremendous amount of blood and gore that you get in the other two comics that I've talked about. But it's still a very interesting comic. Now, here, I should say, I am not a comic reader of Ghost in the Shell. I am more an anime watcher of Ghost in the Shell. So I can't completely say whether the comic will be a good representation. But if the anime is very faithful to the comic, which I think it is, then I think this is a very good comic to read. So anyway, Kokaku Kidotai is a Ghost in the Shell. Okay, so the next manga that I would like to introduce is one that is very, very popular amongst the avid manga fans who love reading dark, mature, violent mangas. And that is Berserk. Berserk is one of the most popular mangas out there if you are a fan of seinen, dark, visceral mangas. Yeah. Probably for the people who read Battle Angel Alita and watch my videos, who are fans of other mangas, who have read other mangas, Berserk may be one of the mangas that you have already read, and probably is one that you like if you liked Battle Angel Alita. It is extremely violent. It's disturbingly violent, and it is extremely dark. And from a plot, there is really very little that parallels Alita, right? I mean, Berserk is not cyberpunk. Berserk is not even science fiction. It's fantasy adventure, right? And if you're sitting there going, oh, I'm not sure if I want to read a story about elves running around with fairies, then you may have a point because both elves and fairies do come out in Berserk. But it is an extremely dark manga that has actually heart to it. The main character has a tremendous amount of empathy and a tremendous amount of courage. And it is that part of the manga that probably is the reason why so many people like Berserk. Now, the type of violence in Berserk is different from that of Battle Angel Alita. I'm not sure if it's more violent in terms of vicious, visceral goriness, but it's definitely more violent in terms of disturbing anguish. Battle Angel Alita, if you know, the battles are graphic. The battles are extremely visceral, and they're very bloody, and they're very gory. Berserk, of course, goes into that. Maybe not as much as Battle Angel Alita, but what it does, and what it does over the top, is the absolute suffering that people will experience during that sort of battles. You don't see that much in Battle Angel Alita. People die relatively quickly, right, in Battle Angel Alita. Here, we see extreme forms of torture, really disturbing forms of death. And you may get turned off by that. If there is any part of Battle Angel Alita that's similar to Berserk in that sort of violence, I would say it's the beginning parts of Mars Chronicle, the orphanage part, and the backstory of Baron Muster. And if you were kind of like, oh gosh, and a little bit turned off by what happened with Baron Muster, for example, in his backstory, then what you have to understand is Berserk is like that, except that that's the entire part of the story. I mean, you get that all the time. You get outrageously disturbing, violent images and very disturbing character portrayal. There's a lot of things like rape. There's a lot of things like torture. And when people die, they don't die instantaneously. They die screaming in pain. And so if you are turned off by that, Berserk may not be for you. But if you can get over that, then it is about a story of vengeance and of courage, of a man who will literally go to the depths of hell to battle the demons that made him suffer in the first place. And as you read up on the battles, you realize that this is a man who will literally put his life on the line for other people if he cares for them, and will go out of the way to take down any opposition to save a friend. And if that's the type of story you like, then Berserk may be for you. Guts is a very interesting character, the main character of the story. And if you love giant swords and a guy who can wield them to decapitate 50 people all at once, then this is definitely a story for you. What's interesting is this story does have heart, it has empathy, because the main character is so caring of certain individuals in his life. And that does make this story a little bit more empathic than a lot of the other stories, which are a little bit more plot driven, like Ghost in the Shell. But it is very violent. And the artwork is amazing. And this story will give you one of the most terrifying depictions of hell that you've ever read in a manga. And it's interesting because the artwork is absolutely gorgeous there, but the scenes you see are absolutely terrifying. And so, yeah, this is an interesting manga. I do have to warn people that this manga hasn't ended yet, and similar to Battle Angel Alita, the author brings out a chapter maybe once every 6 months these days. However, similar to Battle Angel Alita, there is hundreds of chapters now. There's a tremendously long story now, and it'll take you a while before you get to that point where the story currently is, which is unfortunate because of the fact that there is some really interesting parts coming out to the story right now. But it is a very good story, and it is one of the few that actually has a ship. There is a good relationship between the main character and another character in the story, and it becomes one of the pivotal points of the entire story. So if you're into relationship stories, this is a good one. But once again, I will forewarn you, this is outrageously violent. So this is not Sailor Moon sort of ship. This is not Ruby sort of ship. This is, yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street sort of ship, if you can imagine that. Okay, so yeah, it's a good manga. It's a really good manga, but you do have to be aware of what you're getting into. Yeah, so Berserk, if you're interested, yeah, go check it out. Okay, so it's already in the 18th minute of this video, and I have so many more mangas to go through. So I'll make a part 2 for this, but I'll continue on with at least one more manga, maybe 2. And the next one I really want to bring out because it's one of my all-time favorite mangas, and you probably already know this if you've watched some of my other videos. It's called Tokyo Ghoul, and it's a horror manga. It's definitely a horror manga, not in the terms of a ghost sort of horror manga. It's more in the terms of it being, again, violent, but it is interesting. It's a slice of life, and it is very political, and it is very violent, but it's one of the most empathic mangas I have ever read. And I will say that if there's any dark mangas out there, or seinen, mature manga out there, that maybe even more so in heart than Battle Angel Alita, I would say it's Tokyo Ghoul, because there's so much relationship building in Tokyo Ghoul, whereas Battle Angel Alita is very much about a lone wolf mercenary, right? Tokyo Ghoul is about ghouls, as you can imagine, in Tokyo. That's pretty much understood. But there are tremendous points about this manga which are so unique, which make it so good. First off, the reader is seen from the eyes of the ghoul. The main character was a human, which it's a little bit of a spoiler, but it after the very first chapter, you know about this, so it's a minimum spoiler. Due to an incident in his life, he becomes a half-ghoul. And so from that point on, he gets put into the world of the ghouls, and that puts him into a really dark rabbit hole that gets deeper and darker and more disturbing as you go along. Ghouls in this manga are man-eaters, just like in other manga, but it's not due to kind of a monsterish sort of thing. You could think of it as a human who has allergies to everything except human flesh. Really, really bad allergies to everything, every other food except human flesh. That is a ghoul. Whether they like it or not, the only thing they could eat to survive are humans. And so that creates the world of Tokyo Ghoul. And of course, since Ken Kaneki, the main character, was a human, it is extremely difficult for him to eat human flesh. And that starts the very difficult first wall of the story. I won't go too much into it beyond that point for spoilers. But because you see it from a different perspective, it's very, very interesting. And this is the war between humanity and ghouls, and how they will somehow go through this battle to survive. And what is interesting is it doesn't take sides. This story doesn't take sides. It'll give you really despicable people on both the ghoul side and on the human side, and very heartfelt people on both sides as well. And what's very interesting about this comic is it makes them fight each other. A lot of readers become extremely angry reading this manga because of the fact that the characters they absolutely loved on the human side and the characters they absolutely love on the ghoul side end up viciously battling each other. And they're like, what the heck are you guys doing? Because of the fact that on the human side, you like them because they have extremely good characters. And on the ghoul side, you like them because they have extremely good characters, including the main character. But each one of them has a backstory that makes them absolutely hate the other side. And so they will seriously, viciously battle each other. And because we're looking at it from the outside in, getting a chance to live with the ghouls and then getting a chance to live with the humans, you really have a hard time sometimes reading the story because of the fact that people you like on both sides are seriously going at each other. And some of the characters that get killed, and let me warn you, there are a lot of deaths in this comic. And they aren't the deaths of, the red suit people in Star Trek, for example. It is the people of the level of Uhura or Chekhov in the original Star Trek series, or Riker, or Deanna Troi in the Next Generation. Those are the type of people that get killed in this story. And they get killed by other characters you like. And you're like, what the heck are you guys doing? And that is the really, really interesting thing about this story. And because it goes into empathy, and because it goes into heart, there's tremendous amount of relationship building. There's tremendous amount of character building and the friendships that are created. And then they go and kill each other. That you're like, no, what? And the other thing that I love about the story is the developments as the situation goes. You can imagine things happen that will change characters as you go along. So characters you absolutely loved in the beginning, you may absolutely detest by the end of the manga. And characters that you absolutely hated in the beginning, you will go, holy crap, I like this character later on in the manga. So if you like that sort of twists and turns, and being able to see that this is not a good versus evil, this is about one side and another, and the sheer hatred that can come out of war, then this may be an interesting story for you. And my gosh, you do feel empathic for the characters that come out, and you learn to feel for them because of the very painful backstories that they have. In any case, this is a 2-part story, similar to Battle Angel Alita being a 3-part manga series. This one has Tokyo Ghoul, the original series, and Tokyo Ghoul RE. And to be honest, from my perspective, I liked RE better than the original story, although that's my perspective and it may not be the majority of feeling. Original story is wonderful as well. And so I can't recommend this more. This is a wonderful, wonderful story. And if you get a chance to take a look at it, go do that. Now, as far as the anime is concerned, anime is great up to the point. Okay, I will say a name, and it won't mean anything until you actually watch it. So I presume it won't be a story. It is great up till the raid on the Aogiri tree. And you'll know when that is because the main character's hair will turn color from black to white. And after that, the anime is crap. It, for whatever reason, decides to absolutely be not faithful to the comic. And so, it's a beautiful rendition anime. And if you want to see beautiful colors, and I will leave a link to the trailer of Tokyo Ghoul so that you could take a look at it, then go take a look at it and see if you like it. And maybe the anime may be the best way to start it, but believe me, don't continue after the Aogiri tree raid because it just becomes crap after that. And read the manga. The manga's art style is a lot more rough than a lot of the other mangas that I've mentioned, but this one actually fits well because it's such a dark horror story. But this one is extremely heartfelt. So Tokyo Ghoul. If you get a chance to read it, I definitely would suggest it. It has a questionable ending even in the manga at the very end of Tokyo Ghoul Re, but the story is so good that it's still worth it to read it, even with the questionable ending. Okay. One last manga. Sorry. Claymore. Claymore is also a very good manga. And it's also another monster horror story. And why it's in here is, again, it's a very dark story. But it's a very dark story with heart. And this is one that actually does have a main character that you might relate to with Alita. Her name is Claire, and she is a monster hunter. And so, similar to Alita, she is a mercenary or a soldier. This is in the fantasy world again, but the character is extremely likable, similar to Alita, in a slightly different way. She doesn't express her feelings the way Alita does. Alita is over-expressive in her feelings. She's almost, very soft and nice or very vicious in one way. Claire is a little bit more chill, but she is a very, how should I say it, character with flaws. You don't realize it in the beginning, but as you keep on reading the manga, you start realizing what her flaws are. And then it starts becoming very, very interesting. It's very dark, it's very violent, but it is extremely heartfelt. And there is quite a bit of conspiracies that come in, and you won't see that until you go further and further in. Some of the battles, some of the most frightening battles, aren't against the monsters. They're against each other. And you'll understand why they come up. The battles against each other will come up. And as you keep on going, you'll start understanding more and more about this world, and then it gets seriously interesting. This is another one that the anime was quite good at until it got to the end of the anime, which is about 1/3 of the way into the manga. And then it goes to crap again. The very last few episodes of the anime are awful. But the first parts are pretty good. And so if you want to try looking at it, I think there may be a few episodes on YouTube if you search for it and to look at. And if you like the stories, then you might want to try out the manga. The manga is very good. The manga is better than the anime, even in the first few parts. And so, yeah, this is a very heartfelt story about sisterhood and about motherhood to some extent. And it is a very action-packed and very politically deep story, if you don't mind medieval politics. But anyway, that's about it. Claymore, go take a look at it. I definitely would recommend this, especially the latter 2/3 becomes extremely intricate as it goes along. And this one actually has a decent ending, and it has quite a nice ship. The anime makes those characters terrible. The partner to Claire seem extremely terrible, but the comic does that character much better. And it's especially better in the last 2/3. This is a very good relationship comic. Although it's not purely relationship, you don't see it all the time. But whenever you see it, it is a heartfelt moment. And so if you like that sort of very romantic sort of comic about sisterhood, very romantic comic about motherhood, and about relationship between a man and a woman, or a woman and a man in this case, since this is a lady for main character, then Claymore is very good, especially if you like that with an extremely violent and dark and vicious storyline. Okay, so anyway, that's about it for this video. I'll continue on with another set of mangas in another episode. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're interested, I hope you try out a few of these mangas. And if you do, tell me if you actually like them or not. Anyway, that's about it for this video. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any comments, please post them in the comments section below. Especially if you have read any of these manga, please tell me what you think. Until the next episode, happy manga reading, and as always, Jaya, nice day.